Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really drilling down into someone quite fascinating, I think, in Hollywood right now. The actress Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah, her career path is, well, it's more than just a list of movies, isn't it? It's become this real flashpoint.
Exactly. It perfectly highlights this clash between, serious artistic ambition, the intense public sexualization she faces, and just the cold, hard economics.
And when we look through all the source material you sent over, that central tension just jumps right out. It's unavoidable. On one hand, you've got Sydney Sweeney, the producer, the serious actress, winning Peabody Awards, really wanting to be taken seriously.
Right.
And then on the other hand, there's this celebrity who gets tangled up in these incredibly lucrative but also highly controversial brand campaigns.
Yeah.
What people are now calling chaos marketing.
That's exactly what we need to unpack today, that tension.
Yeah.
How did someone who seemed to be on this prestige track, you think about her early work, The Handmaid's Tale, Sharp Objects.
Yeah, really solid stuff.
How did she pivot so hard into becoming almost the face of this rage bait advertising?
It makes you ask a pretty tough question, really. Not just about her, but about the whole industry, maybe. Can a young star actually achieve that kind of huge wealth and security in Hollywood now without losing control of their own story or maybe even their moral compass?
And we should probably acknowledge up front the conversation around Sweeney online, well, it's intense, viciously polarized.
Oh, absolutely.
Looking at some of those specific comments we found in the sources about identity, how she promotes herself, politics, it's clear how fast her image went from just actress to this, politicized symbol.
Yeah, and I think to really understand the choices she made, especially the later ones, we can't just look at the ads themselves. We absolutely have to look at the financial the trauma, really, that seems to have shaped her.
That feels critical. Because she didn't exactly start out with a silver spoon in Hollywood, did she?
Not at all. No. To get why she seemed so focused, maybe even obsessed with financial security as an adult, you have to go back to the beginning. The ambition, yes, but also the sacrifice and, frankly, the desperation that seems to have driven her early.
Okay, let's do that. Let's unpack it right from the start.
So, Sydney Sweeney's origin story. It's definitely not your typical Hollywood tale. Middle-class background, grew up near Spokane, Washington. She's described it as idyllic and wholesome, but also pretty conservative.
Right. Not exactly L.A.
Not L.A. at all. But even from a young age, she was apparently laser-focused on acting.
And it wasn't just a kid's fantasy, was it? Like when she first told her parents she wanted to act.
They kind of brushed it off, yeah. According to the sources, they thought she just wanted to be a princess. They didn't see acting as a, quote, real or sustainable career path.
Which is understandable, I guess, for parents outside the industry, but her reaction.
It was incredibly serious. The sources mentioned this amazing detail. At 12 years old, she put together a detailed 5-year business plan. A PowerPoint presentation, apparently.
A PowerPoint at 12?
Yeah. To convince her parents to let her audition for some low-budget indie film shooting nearby. That kind of foresight, that business thinking, that level of commitment from a kid, pretty extraordinary. It shows her approach to acting was always strategic, maybe, not just purely emotional.
But that strategy, that focus, it came at a huge cost to her family, a really traumatic cost.
Oh, absolutely. Her parents, one was a lawyer, the other worked in hospitality. They ended up sacrificing basically everything. The sources quote them saying they sacrificed all of this to move the family to Los Angeles to support her dream.
And the financial fallout was, brutal.
Immediate and just immense. The family spent, 8.5 months living together in one room at a Holiday Inn in Burbank.
8.5 months in a hotel room with the whole family.
Yeah. Imagine that constant pressure, the lack of space, the fear, and that strain, according to the sources, ultimately contributed to her parents declaring bankruptcy and then divorcing in 2016.
Wow, that's just heartbreaking. And the sources make it really clear that Sydney took all of that onto herself.
Completely. She blamed herself, felt this enormous crushing weight, like only her success could somehow fix it all.
Yeah.
She even recalled family members asking those incredibly painful questions like, when are you going to do something real with your life and stop dragging your family through this?
Ooh, you can just feel that.
That's the kind of trauma, that really fuels your engine later in life. She apparently connected her own self-worth directly to making money, to succeeding financially. She basically made a vow, it seems, that if she made it, she'd buy back the generational family home they had lost.
It's almost a classic American story, isn't it? Redemption through financial success, driven by that early anxiety. And she did achieve those early goals, didn't she?
She did. And remarkably, while pursuing acting, she kept up a serious academic focus, too. She was valedictorian at her school, Brighton Hall, part of the robotics club, math club.
Wow, okay. So definitely driven academically, too.
Absolutely. And yes, she did manage to pay off her mother's mortgage and eventually repurchase that family home they'd been forced to sell.
Proof that the ambition, the business plan actually worked.
It did. And her early roles really backed up her serious acting abilities. Allison Sharp Objects, that dark, intense HBO series.
Yeah, she was great in that. Unsettling.
And Eden in The Handmaid's Tale. Those roles got her immediate critical attention. But they also kind of introduced her to the public as this specific type of character, often tragic, often sexualized. Even then, people recognized her right away and sometimes even hated her for the character she played. So it cast her as this tempting but maybe broken figure right from the start.
Which leads us, I guess, directly into the moment that archetype really solidified.
Yeah.
Section 3, the euphoria effect.
Right. Euphoria premiered in 2019. That was undeniably her global breakthrough, a huge cultural moment.
Huge, but also controversial from day one, wasn't it? Some critics called it, noxious and exploitative because of how it depicted teenagers or actors playing.
Exactly. Very explicit. And she played Cassie Howard. She herself described Kathy as a beautiful, broken character. Her take was that the role showed, cause and effect.
How so?
Like, Cassie communicates through her body because she hasn't really learned another way. That was Sweeney's interpretation, trying to show the consequences of being hypersexual.
Okay, so she saw it as a critique of hypersexual.
That seems to be her perspective, yeah.
Dang.
But the public, a lot of them didn't quite get that nuance or maybe didn't care. Instead, they just doubled down on focusing on Sydney's body in real life.
Right, cementing that.
The blonde bombshell type, basically. Yeah. Hypersexualized, but somehow also innocent, powerful visually, but kind of naive or unthreatening underneath.
Yeah.
Very specific type.
And that immediately created some friction for her regarding her image, even within the show itself.
Yet despite the theme, she mentioned having to set boundaries. She apparently asked the creator, Sam Levins, to cut back on some scenes where Cassie was supposed to be shirtless.
And he did.
He complied, yeah. And she's been clear publicly that she never felt pushed into doing anything she wasn't comfortable with on that set.
Okay, that's important context.
But here's the paradox, right? Even with that level of control on set, she still talked about feeling completely dehumanized by the public sexualization of her, the online commentary, feeling like she had, quote, no control over her image out in the world.
Which really speaks to the Hollywood machine, doesn't it? It's not enough to be a talented actress. You constantly have to perform desirability. It reminds me of that Jessica Alba analogy the sources mentioned.
That's a perfect comparison. Alba wanted to be made ugly for a role, right? In Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer. So her acting will be judged on merit. But apparently, during serious emotional scene, the director told her to cry pretty to maintain that appealing image.
Cry pretty, wow.
The expectation is, even when you're showing deep emotion, the look has to serve the male gaze, essentially.
And the fan reactions to Sydney seem to really reinforce that dynamic, that possessive.
Oh, absolutely. The analysis we saw of how her male fans interact online, it's described as this strange sort of joking, but not joke.
What?
Like, even a simple photo of her kissing her fiancé sparked these intensely possessive sexual comments online. Things like, that last pic destroyed me. I dropped to my knees in the supermarket. Really intense possessive language.
Yeah, that's more than just appreciation. It's objectifying.
It's a highly sexualized, almost proprietary interaction.
Yeah.
It shows that for a big chunk of her fan base, she's already seen less as an actress doing a job and more as this object of fantasy.
And that fantasy object, ironically or maybe inevitably, generates enormous attention, which translates potential wealth.
Exactly. Which brings us right back to that core financial drive. Why would an actress who says she feels dehumanized by this kind of attention choose to actively lean into it for business?
Because, as we established, it seems everything circles back to that deep-seated need for financial control, for security stemming from that early trauma.
Which takes us to Section 4, the pivot to commerce. And it really kicks off with her making some surprisingly frank public statements about money in Hollywood.
Yeah, she made headlines when she talked about the cost of being a star, saying things like, they don't pay actors like they used to.
Which, on the surface, sounds maybe relatable until you dig into the numbers she mentioned about her expenses.
Right, the management fees. She said she loses 18% of her income right off the top. Lawyer, agents, business managers, standard enough maybe. But the detail that really made my jaw drop was the publicist.
The publicist costing more than her mortgage.
Yeah.
That one line, it's an incredible snapshot of the cost of just maintaining an image at that level in Hollywood today.
It really is.
When she mentions that 18% cut, remember, that's before taxes, before personal expenses, before paying any other staff. The publicist costing more than the mortgage just highlights how much of her presumably large income gets instantly eaten up by the machinery of fame. Image maintenance isn't optional. It's massive, required overhead.
If she stops paying the publicist, the whole machine grinds to a halt. Basically, the revenue stream dries up.
Pretty much. And this is where her narrative about money started getting Okay, she reportedly earned around $350,000 for Euphoria Season 1, maybe $40K an episode for White Lotus season.
Which is a lot of money to most people, but Maybe not enough to sustain that kind of A-list infrastructure, the team, the lifestyle.
Perhaps. But then she claimed she couldn't afford to take even a 6-month break from acting, stating very clearly she needed brand deals because I have to.
And that I have to line. That didn't land well with everyone, did it?
No, it got criticized pretty quickly as being tone deaf. It suggested maybe a lack of self-awareness about her actual level of financial privilege compared to, well, almost everyone else. It became hard for people to square that claimed desperation with her rapidly growing net worth and her real estate purchase.
Yeah, the timeline does make that I have to claim a bit. She bought back the family home, great. Then she bought a mansion in LA in 2021. And more recently, in 2025, this huge, almost $13.5 million beachfront man keys.
Right. So the anxiety might be real, rooted in that childhood trauma, but it seems like anxiety about potentially losing a very specific, incredibly high standard of living, not necessarily anxiety about basic survival anymore.
Fair point. So the business shift became clear, diversify income stream, which meant brand deals.
And it started pretty conventionally, didn't it? High fashion stuff, Miu Miu, Armani Beauty, standard celebrity endorsement.
But then something shifted. The desire for maybe faster, bigger financial gains seemed to push her away from those safer and towards deliberately controversial tech, fully leveraging that charged image, maximum attention, maximum profit.
Which brings us right into the thick of it. Section 5, the rage bait campaign. These weren't just about selling soap or jeans. They seemed designed specifically to provoke outrage.
Let's start with Dr. Squatch. That felt like the first major step into really weaponizing her image.
Yeah, and you need the context there. Dr. Squatch wasn't new to this game. They already had a reputation for outrage marketing. They did that viral, pretty controversial campaign with Nick Cannon about ball care products.
Right. Okay, so they knew how to push buttons.
They absolutely did. So in 2024, they partnered with Sydney. The first ad itself was already playing with fire in a bathtub, leaning into the male fantasy element, explicitly saying the soap was for men.
Provocative, but maybe not completely shocking.
True, but the real rage bait was the follow-up. It felt highly calculated. After male fans predictably started joking online about wanting her bath water.
Which is creepy in itself.
The company, reportedly with Sydney's okay, actually released a limited edition soap bar said to contain her actual bath.
Wait, seriously? They claimed it had her actual bath water. How would they even... That sounds insane.
Exactly. It sounds insane, which is precisely why it worked. They only made 5,000 bars, sold out instantly. Then they were being resold online for up to $1,600 a bar.
$1,600 for a bar of soap potentially containing celebrity bath water.
Okay. It completely bypassed normal advertising. It became a news story, a social media phenomenon. Gender studies experts analyzing it called it a capitulation strategy.
Capitulation,
meaning instead of fighting the objectification that she said dehumanized her, she chose to commodify, monetize it directly, turn the audience's desire to own a piece of her, however bizarre, into cold, hard cash. It's deeply cynical, but effective.
And the success of that seems to have set the stage for the main event, peak controversy. The American Eagle Great Jeans ad in July 2025. This felt like chaos market affected.
Absolutely. Incredibly strategic. The tagline itself, Sydney Sweeney has great jeans, a deliberate double entendre.
Jeans as in denim, jeans as in Jeanette. Got it.
They wanted you thinking about both. Simultaneously.
And the video itself really leaned into it.
Totally. She's talking about genes being passed down, hair color, eye color. Then the camera zooms in on her body and she delivers the punchline. My jeans are blue.
Okay. And the backlash was immediate.
Immediate, intense, and very specific. Critics didn't just say it was awkward. They labeled it as deeply infused with eugenic messaging.
Eugenics. That's a heavy charge. For people listening who might not immediately connect those dots, can we unpack that a bit? Why eugenics?
It's not just critics being hyperbolic. There's historical context. The argument was that focusing on good genes, specifically embodied by a conventionally attractive white woman, echoes historical eugenics, like movements that promoted selective breeding for traits deemed desirable. Think about things like the Johnson-Reed Act in the U.S. in 1924, which restricted immigration based on national origin to preserve a certain racial makeup.
Okay. So the critique is that even subtly promoting great genes in a mainstream ad taps into that really dark history.
Precise. Critics argued it connects even unintentionally to dangerous historical precedent, including the kind of ideology that underpinned the Holocaust. Even if the company pleaded innocent, the language itself was seen as inherently loaded, racially and politically charged.
And the comparison that really stuck was to that old Brooke Shields Calvin Klein ad from 1980.
Yeah, which was infamous for sexualizing a teenager. The argument here was that American Eagle used an adult Sydney Sweeney to deliberately mimic that controversial almost predatory tone, knowing it would cause a stir, especially given their young target audience.
And American Eagle wasn't exactly hiding their intent, were they?
Not really. Their chief marketing officer openly admitted the language was chosen to be provocative and to push some buttons.
So it was intentional provocation.
Which leads to that concept from the Be Better Company analysis, narrative arbitrage.
Narrative arbitrage. Okay, break that down. It sounds technical.
Think of financial arbitrage profiting from tiny price difference. Narrative arbitrage applies that to cultural volatility. American Eagle was seen as a struggling brand, a dying company facing stock issues.
Okay.
So they intentionally created cultural content, an argument about eugenics, about her morality, about what the ad even meant. This manufactured confusion and debate generated massive free publicity and temporary financial buzz. The ambiguity was the point, get everyone arguing, drive engagement.
And then politics got thrown into the mix, amplifying everything.
Massively. It became widely known that Sydney Sweeney is a registered Republican in Florida.
Which, in today's climate,
was immediately seized upon. Donald Trump publicly praised the ad, saying, Sydney Sweeney, a registered Republican, has the hottest ad out there. Then someone like J.D. Vance jumped in, framing the backlash as Democrats being unhinged.
So the ad stopped being about genes entirely.
Completely. It became a proxy battle in the culture war. Sweeney became a political symbol pinned to a specific side, whether she intended that or not.
The million-dollar question, did the chaos marketing actually work for American Eagle?
Financially, yes, unequivocally. Despite some initial reports of maybe dips in store traffic, the attention was enormous. They gained something like 142,000 new Instagram followers rapidly. Their stock price surged 26%.
26 cents.
It proved that this kind of high-risk, high-volatility chaos marketing can be incredibly effective financially. Even if the celebrity fronting it, Sydney Sweeney in this case, absorbs almost all the reputational damage.
The brand profits, the celebrity takes the hit. It's a brutal calculation.
It is. But while all this commercial chaos was unfolding, she was still trying to build that other track record, the serious artistic one, through her production company, 50/50 Film. Which brings us to Section 6, the attempted rebalance.
Right, she didn't just give up on the serious act.
Definitely not. She was actively choosing roles designed to showcase her talent, roles that were decidedly non-sexual. Look at Reality in 2023.
Playing Reality winner. Yeah, that got amazing reviews.
Won a Peabody Award for it. Critics almost universally hailed it as her best performance yet. Real validation there.
And she was producing too, right? Immaculate.
Yeah, the horror film from 2024. She bought the rights herself, got it made through her company. It also got good reviews, showed she had producing skills, an eye for material. She was clearly trying very hard to build credibility on that side.
But even those artistic choices, they weren't entirely separate from the strategic, maybe even cynical calculation, were they? Like Madame Web?
Madame Web. Yeah, that complicates the narrative a bit. Critically panned, bombed at the box office in 2024.
A definite dud. But she got paid well, reportedly $750,000. And she was pretty open about why she did it.
She admitted she took the role with ulterior motives, called it a necessary building block.
A building block for what?
To build a relationship with Sony executive. She needed their sign-off to get her own project made, the rom-com Anyone But You. She basically said she couldn't have gotten the rom-com greenlit without doing the superhero movie first.
So she traded some short-term critical heat for a long-term strategic win. That's pure business.
Absolute. Calculated risk. And it paid off spectacularly with Anyone But You. Huge hit. Made over $220 million worldwide.
Massive success. But even that success had a whiff of chaos marketing around it, didn't it?
It did, unfortunately. It brings us back to that rage bait dynamic, maybe in a slightly different form. The marketing for anyone, but you heavily leaned into, even stoked, rumors of an affair between Sweeney and her co-star, Glenn Powell.
Who were both in relationships at the time.
Correct. And Sweeney basically admitted they played into it deliberately for publicity. She said, that's what people want. They used the whole are they or aren't they temptation narrative to sell tickets.
Which worked commercially, but reputational.
It reinforced that temptress image she sometimes seemed to be fighting against. And it had real-world fallout. Powell's long-term relationship reportedly ended during the press tour. So again, the drive for financial success, for buzz, seemed to outweigh potential reputational harm or personal sensitivity.
And where does that leave her now? It seems the chaos might be starting to overshadow the art.
That's the current dilemma, yeah. Despite critical hits like Reality, some of her more recent serious projects like Americana or Echo Valley seem to be struggling to find an audience or critical buzz.
The controversies are just...
Seems that way. The sources mention her upcoming biopic, Christie, where she underwent a significant physical transformation, gained 30 pounds, trained for months to portray the character accurately. Serious commitment.
Okay.
Yet apparently during press for that project, interviewers kept ignoring the film itself and just hammering her with questions about the American Eagle ad, the bathwater soap, the controversies.
So the persona created by the chaos marketing is now potentially damaging the serious work. The system she tried to manipulate is pushing back.
It certainly looks that way. And her consistent strategy when these firestorms erupt, silent.
She never commented on the American Eagle thing publicly, did she?
Nope, consistently refused. And that silence itself is strategic, you have to assume. It lets her maintain plausible deniability about the ad's intent, maybe, while also, crucially, not alienating the vocal political base, including figures like Trump and Vance, who championed her during the outrage. She needs that support now, perhaps.
Wow. It's a tightrope walk. Which brings us back perfectly to the core paradox we wanted to explore in section.
Yeah, the synthesis here is, well, kind of devastating, isn't it? Sydney Sweeney clearly tries to exert control through her production company, through asking directors for changes, through strategic deal-making. But the overwhelming pressure for massive success, for that absolute financial security seemingly driven by that deep childhood trauma, compels her to lean into the objectification, the rage bait, the political puller.
And in doing so,
her image spins completely out of her control again. It forces her into this constant state of managing crises that she, in part, helped create.
It's the ultimate catch-22. And it sounds like she knows it. That quote about learning the system.
Yeah, defending her participation in things like those SNL skits that focused heavily on her body. She said, you just learned the system. You can try and fight it, but they just fight back. It sounds like resignation.
A decision that if you can't beat the system that objectifies you, you might as well profit from it.
That seems to be the calculus. The ultimate cost is clear. The pursuit of that extreme financial security seems to necessitate sacrificing some artistic integrity, maybe some moral consistency along the way. For her, it appears that stability, that fear of repeating her family's past, outweighs almost everything else. It's a pragmatic choice, perhaps, in a very brutal industry.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, that tension leads us to one final really provocative thought that emerged from this about accountability in the celebrity. We spent all this time talking about the intense Dane criticism, the calls for Sydney Sweeney to be canceled, mostly focusing on her brand deals, her advertising choices, the sexualized image controversies about her perceived morality or politics.
Right, a lot of focus on her choices and their perceived implications.
But let's just pause for a second and contrast that level of outrage, that constant scrutiny of her body, her business decisions, with how the public and the industry treats other major, specifically men who face credible allegations of actual physical violence.
The sources brought up Brad Pitt as a stark comparison.
Exactly. He continues to be a massive movie star, a Hollywood icon, despite facing very serious held allegations of domestic involving his family.
Yeah, the court documents mentioned in the sources include allegations that Pitt choked one child, struck another. Resurfaced social media posts attributed to one of his children reportedly called him a terrible and despicable person who made his children tremble in fear. These are incredibly serious allegations of physical harm and emotional trauma.
Yet, his career seems largely unaffected. The cultural conversation often minimizes or ignores the severity of those claims. It raises a really critical question, one for you, the listener, to maybe chew on.
Are the standards for what we deem cancelable, for who we hold truly accountable for ethical acts, wildly different for women versus men, especially when the woman's controversy revolves around her sexuality, her body, her commercial choices, her perceived morality?
Compared to a man facing documented allegations of severe physical violence.
Is the internet's outrage machine calibrated differently? Does it scrutinize and punish women's financial and sexual choices far greater intensity than it does allegations of serious physical harm perpetrated by powerful men?
That's a powerful and perhaps uncomfortable question. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the complex world of Sydney Sweeney, where celebrity, commerce, and chaos market.
We hope this gave you a clearer picture of the powerful, often contradictory forces shaping fame and fortune in the modern era.